is Short Story 1. He is a horror writer who writes on horror subreddits on Reddit. His stories are vastly unique and sometimes don't even make sense. He has had a couple of popular short horror stories that was well upvoted and lots of Reddit users had commented on. Short Story hardly ever replies to comments, and one theory suggests is that he is a mental patient in an institute for the insane. Some even suggest that he has had multiple brain surgeries and was even experimented on. This would explain for Short Story 1's weird plots that don't make sense, because insane people don't make sense. Another theory is that Short Story 1 is 1,000 years old, and because he has lived a so long life, his stories are a reflection of what he has experienced throughout the ages. This would also explain why his grammar is terrible, because language has changed so much in the last 1,000 years, and Short Story 1 has failed to keep up. Another theory is that Short Story 1 is an actual alien that is just having fun with the humans on Reddit. Short Story 1 being an alien would explain so much about his writing and why it's so absurd. Maybe Short Story 1 is lost in our planet and has no idea what he is doing at all. Short Story 1 is maybe an alien that has transformed into a human and is struggling dealing with the human mind and emotions. The last and most likely theory is that Short Story 1 is artificial intelligence robot and someone experimenting the robot by letting it write stories on Reddit and seeing humans react to it. As we know, technology is evolving so fast, and robots in the future are now a strong possibility. Driverless cars have evolved so much, and Short Story 1 might be a robot that can imagine. Who do you think Short Story 1 might be? Have you read his stories? It was Valentine's Day, and I was looking forward to go out on a date with my girlfriend for months, but unfortunately it was a lockdown, so we couldn't go out to any restaurant or anything. My girlfriend lived with me, so at least we could cook something at home and have a nice romantic meal. She sat down on the sofa watching TV while I cooked her the meal. About an hour later I called her out to the kitchen, and the table was set with candles and all to give it that romantic atmosphere. We started eating the meal and my girlfriend told me how delicious it tasted. She asked what it was, and I told her it was mincemeat with vegetables. After the meal we both sat back down watching a romantic movie. I was really enjoying the night. I gave my girlfriend a glass of wine, and within a few minutes I was feeling drowsy. I wondered why, as I had the sleeping tablets and painkillers crushed up into her glass. But she somehow must have noticed. I had planned on knocking her out and tying her up and revealing to her when she awoke I had that bastard Jack who she was cheating with on me. I had him tied up and gagged in the basement, thinking my plan would go according to plan. I did worry I'd be arrested for kidnapping though, as I was just going to try to scare them, but somehow my girlfriend knew my plan and switched the drinks to me get knocked out instead of her. I'm writing this letter by force, My girlfriend is pointing a gun at me, with her ex standing by smirking as I write. I don't know what they are going to do to me. My girlfriend is asking me to write what I think she is going to do to me. I write, I hope my girlfriend will let me go and tell me she's finished with me, but forgive me for tying Jack up and trying to knock her out with the tablets. She looked at the ending and smiled, then said, "This is just what I wanted." I wondered what she meant. She told me, "Because you cheating bastard, I know you have another girlfriend, and her name is Sarah, so now she's going to get the blame for murdering you, not me." She pressed the gun to my head and said, "Right, I hope Sarah leaves me go." I said, No, Sarah is innocent. She has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with it. Now write Sarah's name. Write, "I hope Sarah will let me go." I eventually wrote Sarah's name. My other girlfriend and Jack laughed, and both said, "Happy Valentine's," and texted Sarah pretending to be me. "Come over, please. I have the house free. My girlfriend is gone out of town." As soon as he sent the text, he rang the police, pretending to be an anonymous neighbour, hoping Sarah would arrive at the same time they did. Sure enough, the police arrived just a couple of minutes after Sarah was in the house crying, and she was arrested for murder with the letter as evidence. I had a very tragic event happen in my home years and years ago. I was left a mansion in an estate in the middle of the country, and trust me, it was a very beautiful, mystical place. You could see the history written all over it. But one day I had a falling out with a man. That man was my uncle. He was left money, but that's it. But you see, he wanted to claim some of the land around the mansion, and no matter how many times I told him that none of the land was his, he wasn't having it. One night I eventually called a truce, but in reality I had planned on murdering him, which I did. I poisoned his wine and hid him down in the wine cellar. I tied him up to the wall with shackles to make the most of the space, and built bricks around him to suit the rest of the wall. I tried to do it perfectly, whereas people would think it was just a part of the wall. For years and years I felt an eerie atmosphere in the house, and I just put it down to my nerves over what I did. Thankfully, he didn't seem to haunt the place like you'd see in some spooky houses, where paintings would float along the air, etc. One night, I brought a beautiful lady I met down in the village home for dinner. We were enjoying the dinner, but she didn't really like the wine I chose. I asked her to choose one below in the cellar, proud of my collection of wines over the years. I must have collected hundreds of bottles of wine. The girl went down to the cellar and was in awe with all the different wines I had on display. I was standing back wondering what she would choose. Suddenly I noticed something strange when she handed me a bottle that stood the hairs on the back of my neck. It was the same brand of wine I used to poison my uncle. It wasn't the same bottle, of course, but the exact same brand. She gave me a smile, and there was something in her eyes. Had she known that my uncle had been poisoned by me, using this brand? Was she just playing a sick game with me before calling the police? Was she the police? All different questions swam around in my head until I realized something was moving. It didn't make a sound, but it was definitely moving. I panicked, but couldn't let her notice the fear. She'd turn around if she noticed. I had fear over what was happening before me, behind her. What I was seeing with my own eyes, but what I could not make any sense of. What I saw was a brick move, and my uncle's huge eye stared out at me. I remember he had lost an eye in the war, but I hadn't seen that eye for years, not since the day I killed him. I told the girl we should go up to finish our meal. It will be getting cold. She gave me a quizzitive look, as she knew we had practically finished our dinner already. Suddenly she turned around and screamed when she saw my uncle's eyes staring right at her from the wall. I didn't know what was happening. How could my uncle be alive? I had to stop her screaming. I had to stop her screaming. It kept getting louder and louder, so I grabbed the bottle and smashed it over her head. As she fell to the ground, my uncle burst through the wall and looked at me sadistically and said, "That girl could have chosen any bottle out of your huge collection. But will I tell you why she chose that one? Because I summoned her, here to take her soul, to bring me back to life." Hello, my name is Jake. I used to get upset over my daughter Sarah's last boyfriend, Fred, as he was an ex-convict. So was it hard to blame me? I mean, what father would be delighted with their daughter going out with an ex-convict? He was in for drug dealing, and the thing is, she has moved on, but to be honest, her new boyfriend is worse. The first day I met him, me and my daughter and wife and her new boyfriend Tom were having a meal. Tom just gave me a cold stare, and there was something dark and void in his eyes. My wife and daughter hadn't seen it, but I knew he was hiding something. I don't know what, I don't know how big, but I just knew. I tried telling my daughter, "Sweetie, I know that you think you know Tom, but are you really sure you really know him? I mean, put it this way, he doesn't seem to talk about his family much." My daughter cut me off. "Dad, why do you question everything and everyone I go out with? Tom is a very caring guy, and he has been there for me the last few months, and especially since Fred has become a crazed stalker who just won't get it into his head that I am over him and don't want anything to do with him. Tom has told him to back off, and to be honest, I don't think he would have, only for Tom frightening him or whatever he did to get him to back off. I was really scared my daughter was going to get into trouble with this stranger Tom, so I used it to my advantage what she had just told me about Tom frightening her ex Fred. I said to my daughter, "Well, there you go, sweetie. You don't know what he did to Fred. Did he threaten to kill him, or did he have him beaten up? I mean, let's face it, Fred doesn't seem the type of guy to just back off. You were months trying to get him to stop stalking you. I was hoping to find something to prove I was right about my daughter's new boyfriend Tom, so I did some research and typed his name into the search engine. Millions of results came up, so I tried doing the image search of him, and the town, and the company he is meant to work for. I was hoping he wouldn't appear at all, that he was just giving a false name, and he would be cut out way before anything bad happened to my daughter. But my hopes were dashed when his face popped up. Things came to a head one Friday night, when me and my daughter went to Tom's house. She was delighted I had accepted to go to his house for a meal. My daughter went in and I had just realised I'd left my phone in my car, so I went out and fetched it. A few seconds later, I heard a gunshot from inside Tom's house, and my heart started racing. I ran into the house and saw my daughter crying inside there. I told her, "Get back." I had a gun with me at all times for protection, and my daughter knew about it. I told my daughter to stand back, and I kicked the door in and could see my daughter's ex bleeding to death on the ground. Tom was standing there shouting. I shot him in the head and explained to my daughter I had to, as he had his gun held to my head and was going to kill me. My daughter rang the police, and while I was waiting I saw her on the laptop and asked her what she was looking at. She told me, "Don't worry, Tom has CCTV inside the house and outside. I'll be able to show the police that you just shot him in self-defense." Then I noticed I could see my hand go in the window while I was pretending to fetch my phone, but I had went around knowing the window was open. All was ajar. It was a habit Tom had that was a real advantage to me. I was seen holding the gun in the window to the back of him and shooting Fred. My daughter knew now that it was me who shot Fred, and I had planned to burst the door open, pretending to have had to kill Tom before he had killed me. My plan was ruined now. That's why I knew what I had to do before the police came. I knew they would know that it was me that purposely set up Tom to look like the killer that killed Fred, but it was really me. And it was really me who killed Tom because I wanted to, not because it was self-defense. And I knew what I had to do before the police came. So I held the gun up to my daughter and pulled the trigger. It was a lovely summer's day, and me and my friend were taking a trip in my private helicopter. Everything was going great. We were enjoying the view until we started to fly over my house. I noticed something strange. It was like a masked man was carrying my wife to my outside pool to throw her in. I quickly told my friend, "Look below, what's going on? Do you see down below? There's someone carrying my wife into the pool." I quickly flew the helicopter down and saw that a masked man was carrying my wife, and just as he got low, we could see him throw her into the pool. He ran away, and when the helicopter eventually landed, he was well gone. I ran over to the pool and jumped in, but by the time I did, my wife had already drowned. My friend rang the police for me, and when they came, I told them what had happened. We were flying over my house when all of a sudden I could see a masked man carrying my wife and throwing her into the pool. They asked did I have any enemies, but I couldn't think of any. My wife was in the bath, and I walked in, knowing what I had to do. I grabbed her by the neck and put her under the water until she stopped breathing. Then, when I knew she had died, I rang the girl of my dreams, who kept at me the last few months to end it with my wife once and for all. It was her plan. When she answered the phone, I told her what to do. "It's done, she's dead, but what you need to do is wait until about 3 p.m. tomorrow, dress up as a man, put your hair up, I'll convince my friend you're a man, carry my wife, I'll fly over the house in the helicopter, and when you see us go lower, run up to the swimming pool. I'll fly over the house in the helicopter, and when you see us go lower, run up to the swimming pool as if my wife was alive until you threw her into the pool. If they think it's a man that drowned her in the swimming pool, there is no way they will trace the real drowning back to me drowning her in the bath. And remember, the most important thing, baby, is I love you." Susie was feeling down as she had no cell phone for a whole 3 days. That might not be a long time to most people, but to Susie it felt like a whole month. She missed being able to scroll down news feeds and swiping through pics, etc. on social media. She knew it would take her a long time to save up for a new phone, so she decided to go into the local pawn shop to see could she pick up a second-hand one. She settled on a cool new-looking phone and paid her money and walked home. She couldn't wait till she got home to check it out, so she turned her phone on and was surprised a logo popped up on the screen right away. It was a circle with W in it. She just assumed it was some sort of app, so she clicked on it. That night she was sitting down watching TV, enjoying a good thriller movie, when her phone screen lit up. She checked to see what the notification was. She dropped her phone from her hand when she saw what she couldn't understand. It looked like a very pale woman's face came very close to the screen, and there was an awful sound came from her phone. She put the phone down again and continued to watch the movie. Suddenly it lit up again. This time she was hesitant in looking to see what it was, but when she did, the W logo popped up on the screen again. She tried to go into it, but when she did, it said, "We are currently in private beta. Please enter password if you have one." I realized by looking at the top of the screen it was an app called Whoop. I checked the Google store to see was the app there, but there was no sign of it. I was going to go back to watching the movie, but I decided to Google Whoop app. I was shocked when I read what came up. It said, Whoop is a musical and social media app that was under development. The creator, Sarah Bell, and sole owner, was violently killed on Friday night while going for what seemed like her nightly walk. No suspects are being questioned at the moment, and there is no motive. The homicide is still under investigation. What I saw underneath the article sent shivers up my spine. It was a photo of a woman that looked exactly like the woman that popped up on my screen earlier. I went into her photo gallery and panicked when I saw many photos of the woman who was murdered. I turned off the phone, wondering what was happening and what exactly was that short little video I saw. I knew it was her, but was it actually a video of her being murdered? And why did it pop up in the phone when I didn't even touch it? I jumped in my seat when I saw my phone light up again. I panicked big time this time, knowing I had just turned the phone off. I was reluctant picking up the phone, but when I did, the words, "Be careful," were on the screen. Then as soon as I saw them, they had disappeared. I heard a noise at the door and thought it was my mind playing tricks on me until I heard footsteps. I knew now there was someone in my house with me. I felt a freezing shiver run up my spine, and a lightheadedness with a mixture of fear and panic consume me. Suddenly a figure appeared in my room. I was expecting to see the woman who got killed standing there, but it was a man. The man spoke. "Well now there, don't be frightened. I had to kill that bitch because she stole my unique software for her app. You see, I was her partner before she got greedy and wanted to take full control of the app. You might wonder why I'm here and how I found you. Well, you can thank the wonder of technology and those great Find My Phone apps. I was just on my way to the pawn shop today when I realized someone had bought it. It made things so much more awkward for me, knowing that I will have to kill another person this time, a person I don't even know, to retrieve the phone. You know that if they got this phone, well then they would get me as the killer. You might ask why I didn't take the phone with me that night. Would you believe I took her damn wallet thinking it was her phone? But then again, maybe that made the cops think it was some random robbery. I froze in fear, wondering what he was going to do to me. Suddenly the phone made a sound, as if I got a new message. Then the screen burst into pieces, and a piece of glass stuck in the man's eye. Blood came squirting out. Then a hand came out of the screen and choked him to death. The relationship between me and my wife had turned strange a couple of weeks ago, and I am not sure what happened exactly. A month and a half ago, my wife came screaming into the living room, shoving a picture into my face. She kept on shouting, "Who is this younger woman you were with?" And I calmly told her that the younger woman was her. She then looked at the picture and realised that it was her when she was in her early 20s. We were both in our 40s now, and she cried and apologised, and we made up. Then, a couple of days later, she barged into our bedroom and was shouting at me to explain the photo of me with a younger woman. I tried explaining to her that the younger woman in the photo was her when she was younger. She had a knife in her hand, but I kept control of that hand that she had gripped the knife with. She then realised that the young woman in the photo was actually her. Something wasn't right, and I decided to go through some old photos together of both of us in our younger days. As we were going through the old photo book, my wife would scream and shout at me in a murderous tone every time she saw me in a photo with her when we were younger. Then she would apologise when she realised it was herself in the photo, and it was incredibly unusual. Then I started doing it myself. As we were looking through the old photo book, I would go angry and accuse my wife of cheating when I would see a photo of her with a younger man, but the younger man is me. I would then apologise straight away. Going through that old photo book had constantly made me and my wife shout at each other and accuse one another of cheating until we both realise it is just our younger selves. We have burnt all photos.